here I am at Luxembourg. I'm now beginning the next phase of my Interrailing trip. I'm heading into Germany. Hello YouTube, this is Cologne Hauptbahnhof, that is Cologne Cathedral, and I just had enough time to buy myself a pretzel. This is my first ever ICE train. It is now Friday. I'm here in Hanover. I've decided to spend the whole day here and go to Berlin in the evening. So I've joined a walking tour. Today is Saturday, my first full day in Berlin. We start here outside Friedrichstraße station, which I will come back to later. So here I am on the roof of the Reichstag. And there is the Reichstag Dome, which is actually closed for cleaning this week. So that's my plan, to cycle through the city centre along the path of the Berlin Wall. The East Side Gallery just keeps on going. There's just loads and loads of wall with all of these really creative and colourful bits of art on it. So welcome to part 3, the Interrailing adventure, the Denmark Diversion. Welcome to InterRail, the series from my 2 months of interrailing around Europe by train, from London to Budapest the long way. I'll visit Brussels and stay with some family friends in Luxembourg before heading east into Germany, visiting Cologne and Berlin. I'll then take a diversion north, stopping off at Hamburg on my way to Copenhagen via the famous train ferry which has since ended, before heading back into Germany to visit Nuremberg, Munich, and meeting my parents at my former home of Frankfurt. I'll then head south into France, through Strasbourg, Lyon and Nice, before running along the Mediterranean and through northern Italy via Genova, Florence and Venice. I'll then head north through the spectacular Brenner Pass and right across Austria, before finally finishing off in the Hungarian capital and my other home city of Budapest. Earlier in 2019, I learned that the famous train ferry linking Puttgarden to Roby was set to be withdrawn in December, so I decided to ride it as part of my trip, taking a diversion from my journey towards France. From Berlin, I'll head north, stopping off at Hamburg to visit Miniatur Wunderland, before riding the train ferry towards Copenhagen. From Copenhagen, I'll cross the Øresund Bridge to visit Sweden, spending the day in Gothenburg. After that, I'll head west, taking the land route back to Germany, stopping off for the night in Odense, on my way to Nuremberg. So here I am in Hamburg. It's a fairly quick stopover, just one night. I'm getting the 13:28 service to Copenhagen tomorrow, which is the train ferry. So I've got just under 24 hours to make the most of my visit. One of Hamburg's main attractions is Miniatur Wunderland, and apparently it's so popular that they keep it open throughout the evening until 1 in the morning. So I've booked myself a time slot for 10:30, which is slightly insane, but it means I have the afternoon and tomorrow morning to explore the city instead of having to use basically half of my time to visit Miniatur Wunderland. First I'm going to go check into my hostel, drop off my heavy bag.
Ist auch heute das noch, dass man hier mal Due to construction work, trains in both directions are currently not able to stop at Landungsbrücken station. Passengers who wish to go to Landungsbrücken can use the bus 111 from Baumwald.
Nee, auf keinen Fall.
Das ist ja aber gewundert, dass ich das weiß. Ne?
Ja? Ja gut, ich gehe von einem gewissen Bildungsniveau bei dir schon aus.
Allgemein das.
Ich war selber noch auf da,
112
Informationsmaterial
from
aus
St.
dem Internet.
Ja.
Und ich muss demnächst noch auf die Botschaft. Die ist aber nicht hier, die ist in Berlin, glaube ich.
Immer wissen, was da auffällt, was für eine Politik da herrscht.
Mhm.
Und,
Das habe ich nie als
So I've settled into my hostel here in Hamburg. I've met Casper, who's from Denmark. And we've just come to the waterfront. Apparently there's an old tunnel that's mildly interesting where you can cross over to the other side of the Elbe to then get a good view of Hamburg. So that's what we're going to do. So I've had my dinner, and by dinner I mean about 2 years worth of calories in one dish. So I'm now basically just killing time until my slot at Miniatur Wunderland at 10:30.
Dear visitors, unfortunately it is time for us to say goodbye now. We are closing.
And with that, I had to leave because, amazingly, it's 1 AM and it's now closed. I mean, I was expecting it to be good, but wow, that was just something. I mean, if you're in Hamburg, just go. That was absolutely phenomenal. Good morning, today is Sunday. I've got just a few hours to spend in Hamburg before I set off for my train. I've come to look at the ruins of the Church of St. Nicola. You can walk around the former church site itself. There's also a museum underground, and you can also go up to the top with a lift, taking a look at the ruins of the church, which was of course destroyed by British bombers during World War II. So that was St. Nikolai Church, or what remains of it, with a very interesting exhibition space underneath, all about the bombing of Hamburg, and a great view from the tower. Apparently it was the tallest church in the world between 1874, when it was finished, and 1880, when Cologne Cathedral was finished, and Cologne Cathedral then briefly became the world's tallest building. So I've now got 2 hours until my train. I'm going to wander towards the station via the town hall. Be my train to Copenhagen.
station, Rødby.
And we're off. This ferry did not hang about. Apparently neither does the train at the other end. I've read multiple stories of people waiting too long and then missing the train. You've got to be back on it pretty much the second you reach the other side. And just like that, I'm on a boat.
Gränsekontroll, so bitte nehmen Ihr Passport und Fahrkarte, so dass die Passkontrolle
So here I am in Copenhagen Central. It is now dark. It's about 7 o'clock or 6:45. So I'm now pondering what to do next. I'm currently planning to get the same train back to Hamburg in 3 days. I've got 3 nights here in Copenhagen, back via the train ferry, but I might abandon that entirely and go back via the land route and spend a night in Odense in Denmark, just to see a bit of non-Copenhagen Denmark, because when else am I ever going to go to Odense? So here I am back at Nørreport 4 years later.
Here at Nørrebro station. It's a mainline railway, but it's underground. I'm not sure which train is ours. This is a lot bigger than, say, the tube in London. But then again, it is a mainline railway, just running underground.
Smaller than I remember. That's probably just because I've grown taller. Good morning. Monday. I've got one full day here in Copenhagen. Tomorrow I'm going to Gothenburg, so I've joined another one of those free walking tours. This one's 2.5 hours and it starts in about 10 minutes. Hopefully we'll see quite a bit of the city. I have of course been here before. I came here in 2015, but I'm going to have a little recap and also go back to the Amalienborg Palace, which I remember we didn't quite get to, and I was very annoyed about it. The tour starts here at the town hall. Let's take a peek inside before we get started.
Just wait for these bells to stop, folks.
I'd rather you do it. I guess it's because you're healthy.
So this is the Danish Parliament building. Still on the walking tour. One of the places that we didn't get to last time, which I had on my list, was Amalienborg Palace, which is actually where the walking tour ends, conveniently enough. There's another walking tour around Christianstown, just on the other side of the city, in a couple of hours, so I'm thinking of joining that. Here I am after the end of the walking tour in Amalienborg Palace Square. There's actually 4 different palaces, one of which is a museum. So I'm now going to go find the mermaid statue and a fountain next to it, and then walk through the new harbour to get back to a square we were already in. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, which is where the Christianstown tour starts. So I'm walking up the coast. Meanwhile, lovely fountain here, which I think we came to. I vaguely remember this fountain.
So this is the Gothenburg fountain, and I'm assuming that's the Gothenburg church next to it.
And then this moat, which is on the edge of the old fortress, which I'm currently walking around now. No shortage of tourists here. I say as a tourist who's come to see the Little Mermaid statue. Little Mermaid statue, tick. Right, now time to walk back into the centre via the new harbour. And here I am at the back of the new harbour. We walked past this on the tour. I'm getting it. Got a bit longer, so well, not that long, but a few minutes to look around it now. It was once apparently the poorest part of Copenhagen, and since then it's been heavily gentrified and touristified into one of the nicer touristy parts with a lot of perhaps very overpriced restaurants and cafes. So I've now crossed over into Christianshavn. It's about 3:20. I completely missed the start of the tour, and obviously I have no idea where they are, so I pretty much missed that, which is I'm very annoyed about. So I'll just have to explore the island on my own. Is the Circle Bridge. You can probably see why they call it that, because it's, you know, made of circles. So looking on a map, the edge of the island of Christianshavn, which I'm currently walking around, has this very weird, jagged look, looking suspiciously like it's an old fortress, which it in fact was. And as I walk towards the semi-autonomous region of Freetown, Christiania, which probably deserves an entire series of videos of its own, I'm heading towards there now. I'm also going to go up the All Saints Church elsewhere on the island, which apparently has good views of the city, and then I'll probably just call it a day and head back to the hostel. So this is Freetown Christiania, a bizarre autonomous commune sort of in the middle of Copenhagen, basically the autonomous Republic of Stoners. I walked down Pusher Street, which are, they understandably ask politely that you don't take photos because there's a bunch of people very obviously selling weed down there. It's a very interesting place. Anyway, with that done, I'm now returning to Denmark proper, and I'm going to go up that church over there. Well, that's a note of that as well then. Since it was now the late afternoon and there wasn't much else to do, I decided to explore a bit of Copenhagen's new metro system. So after making full use of a 1 hour 15-minute ticket by riding around on the metro for about 1 hour and 17 minutes, it's now just past 7 o'clock and it's all dark. I seem to have much the same problem as we had in Oslo last year, which is that everything just closes quite early. So you get to a point in the evening where there's just not much to do, unless of course one wants to go out drinking. Just past the Tivoli Gardens, one of the world's oldest amusement parks, and it contains the world's third oldest roller coaster, which I remember, it just popped into my head while I was passing because I wrote... Apparently Brexit has inspired a Christmas cabaret here in the Tivoli, but unfortunately it doesn't start until the 12th of November. Morning YouTube, today is Tuesday, it's about 6:30. I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, which is probably, I think it's the earliest I've woken up since I left London. Today I'm doing a day trip across the Øresund to Gothenburg, and because it's a 3.5 hour train journey, I figured if I'm going to do it in a day I should wake up very, very early to make the most of it. So I'll get there just about 11 o'clock, stay until about 7 and then come back. But first I need to find a supermarket that's open and sells coffee, which is easier said than done. Success, I found some pastries and a coffee. I'm now going to catch my train, come to Nørreport because the train comes through here anyway and it's a lot closer to the hostel. I like to think that when on real-time trains station calling is listed as no report because it hasn't been recorded, it actually means it's gone through here.
There we go, just approaching Sweden now.
Oh, here's Sweden, here's Sweden.
So we're in Denmark.
Sweden.
We're in Denmark.
Sweden.
We're in Denmark.
Meatball.
We're in Denmark. We're in Denmark. We're in Denmark. And now we're in Sweden.
där sitter man och universitet, bra gymnasiet. Och där sitter man och det enda man kan... Och det enda...
And so here I am in Sweden, as I remarked last time, home of PewDiePie, Minecraft and IKEA, and also Greta Thunberg. I'm here in Gothenburg for the day. That's my train, just come in from Copenhagen, I'll be back on the 1855. It's quite a long train journey, much longer than one would normally do for a day out, but because it's free with my InterRail pass and I have been to Copenhagen already, seen much of it, I thought screw it, let's go to Gothenburg, which is what I've done.
Västtåg mot Kungsbacka, avgår 11:20.
So I'm now heading towards the Haga district, the main kind of touristy district. Meanwhile, over there is the main river that flows through Gothenburg. The Göta älv. Älv is probably just Swedish for river, so Göta, which would explain why the city is called Göta City, Gothenburg, as we anglicise it. The weather is not cheerful, but also not bad. Got my coats, so it's all good. Although I suspect as the weeks go on and it gets cooler and cooler, I will find myself missing my winter coat, which ironically is in Muscat, where it's of not much use to anybody. So Haga's along that way, but just over here apparently is the City Museum, so I've decided to quickly go take a look at that first. I can't say it seems like the liveliest of places, but that's because it's Scandinavia in October, so. So looking on a map, you might notice that Gothenburg, like the island of Christianshavn, also has these kind of little jagged bits, because this part of Gothenburg, the original part of Gothenburg, was built as a fortress city. So this is the remains of Karlsporten Gate, which was here, and that corner was built as a gunpowder storehouse by Carolus Undecimus Rex, according to this plaque. But it was never used as one because it was too damp, so they used it to store Russian prisoners instead. Decided to have a look at the fish market and bought some salmon to eat with my bread and cheese. Very peculiar looking benches. People actually sunbathe on there, or what? Where's the sun? I've just walked around the Haga district for a bit. I'm now going to climb up to the Skansen-Kronen fort, which is just at the top of this hill, which should hopefully give me a nice view of the city. Guess I'm not going up there then. So here I am back at the central station. The last train, the last direct train back to Copenhagen's at 18:55. You can go back later, but with a change. But to be honest, it's now about 5:30, and I think I've pretty much exhausted all there is to do for a dumb tourist like me here in Gothenburg. So I think I'm just going to catch the next train back and not get home at 11:30. So we've just left Lund, still about an hour till we get back to Copenhagen, and it has just occurred to me that I have this entire carriage section to myself. This train is almost completely empty. I mean, there are a few people on at the start at Gothenburg, but now it's just completely empty. So they've just announced this train's actually being terminated short at Malmö, but there's another train set immediately in front, which I can switch to. So here I am at Malmö Central.
So here we are in Malmö Central.
Absolutely empty. Where is the population of Sweden today? And so here I am, just over 12 hours later, back at Nørreport. Got one more night here in Copenhagen, and then tomorrow I've decided to go with Plan Odense. So I'll be spending the morning in Copenhagen, then taking a train to Odense, spending a night there, and then from there heading down to Nuremberg. Morning. Today is Wednesday. I've left my hostel in Copenhagen now, Generate Copenhagen. Probably the worst one I've stayed at so far. The rooms are incredibly cramped, and although there's a nice bar area downstairs, everything they sell you there is horrendously overpriced. This morning the coffee machine in the supermarket was broken, so I had to buy one from the hostel £4 for a latte. It's taking the piss. And then I asked them if they have washing machines upstairs. They said yes, but you need a token, and they wanted €9 for it. So I said absolutely not. I left. So I've got most of the day here in Copenhagen, and then at some point in the afternoon I will catch a train to Odense. So this is the Round Tower, which offers good views of Copenhagen, and it's just occurred to me, as soon as I've seen it, is that I'm pretty sure we went up here last time.
So we're now heading up to the top of this kind of observatory tower thing. Now I've heard of spiral staircases, but this here is a spiral ramp.
Observatory has undergone several changes throughout history. The university moved to a more modern setting in the 1860s.
So here I am at the top of the Round Tower with a lovely view of Copenhagen. So I see the very scary looking rides over there at Tivoli by the railway station. Down and down and down. Down and down and down and down and down and down and down. Just want a free drink. I'm balancing a coin on a lemon. Good times. So that was the Danish Jewish Museum. I did come here in 2015, but I've decided to come back and give it another visit. The building that it's in predates the museum, but the interior of the museum itself is designed by Daniel Libeskind, the same architect who designed Berlin Jewish Museum, Imperial War Museum for the North, and I believe the memorial for 9/11 in New York. The interior is deliberately designed to be sort of disorientating and uncomfortable, which makes the museum a very interesting space. It's somehow smaller than I remember it from last time, but anyway, very interesting stuff in there, all about Danish Jewish culture in general, and of course the evacuation of the Danish Jews to Sweden during World War II. And I was reminded of the fact that one of my close friends, their grandparents were among those Jews who were evacuated to Sweden. The government actively intervened on behalf of its Jewish population and successfully evacuated most of its Jews to Sweden. Anyway, I'm now done with Copenhagen. It's time to catch a train to Odense. Joy of joys, I have the IC4. This is my train. It's a service to Aarhus, but I'm taking it only as far as Odense. So I've checked into my hotel. I'm now going to wander around, see a bit of Odense before it gets dark. Apparently most of the tourist attractions here are all themed around Hans Christian Andersen, because this was his hometown. His house is now a museum. Slightly lost looking London Underground roundel. Love these houses, the village atmosphere. It's very quiet. It's nice. So this is it, the Andersen house, little yellow house here. There's a lot of building work going on around here because they're building a large new museum complex for the Hans Christian Andersen Museum, hoping probably to attract more tourists. this will be what it looks like from the outside, just in this empty area behind here. It says it's been designed to fit in with the small city house and narrow cobbled streets in the neighbourhood. As interesting as this looks, I really don't see how it remotely fits in with the rest of the neighbourhood. Good morning, it is now Thursday. That's a large puddle. I've now got about 4 hours until my train leaves. I'm travelling all the way down to Nuremberg today. It's the longest single train journey I've made so far on this Interrail trip. The whole journey should be about 9 hours. But now, first I have just a few hours to see a little bit more of Odense, have some breakfast, and then go to the Odense Railway Museum, which, conveniently enough, is right by the station. So here I am at Odense station, and just across the road is the Denmark's Jernbane Museum, or the Danish Railway Museum. Why don't we take a look? Here we are, apparently, at Paris Gare du Nord. That was quite fast. I was in Odense a second ago. So that steam loco and the carriages are actually going on an excursion, so they'll actually be leaving the museum and going off somewhere. I realise Veteran Tog is probably not the name of the station. Right on time. So here I am back in Hamburg. So here I am at Munich or München Hauptbahnhof.